why you and I are not married. If you're watching this and you are married, that's fine. I don't discriminate against anybody, especially people who are married. But if you're not married, here's some of the main reasons why I, and probably you, are not married. First, I'm going to have to split this video into talking about two different categories of people. Those who live in the United States and those who don't. If you live in the United States, you probably know what I'm about to say. If you don't live in the United States, well, I don't have as much to say to you as I can only speak from experience, and I've only lived in the United States in my whole life until very recently when I moved to a very remote part of Greenland. You know, to get away from the ants. First, if you live in the United States and you're not married, the main reason why you're probably not married is because of cars. Yep. In a country that has very little effective public transportation, most people in the United States have to basically rely on a car to get them from one place to another, which basically eliminates all possibility of you meeting someone in transit. Tell me, when's the last time you were sitting at a stoplight in a car and you just decided to spontaneously roll down your window and have a conversation with the person sitting in the car next to you? Don't know what I'm talking about? It's because it's never happened. Now yes, some people do live in cities and they use public transportation, but the vast majority of Americans have to rely on cars to get from one place to another. Now I'm going to have to split this video into two parts again. People who work at home and people who commute. Starting with people who work at home. If you work at home, you probably spend most of your day alone on a computer. You might even live alone unless you have a roommate. If you have a dog, you might have to take the dog out for a walk, but even then it's not likely that you're going to meet anybody while you're walking because you're probably walking that dog in a residential area, which, because again, we rely on cars so much in the United States, our infrastructure is not really built around walking or meeting people. The other thing that you might do if you work from home is go to the gym. You're probably thinking, well, I don't get any exercise going to and from work. I might as well make up to it by going to the gym. While it is good to exercise, you're probably not going to meet anybody at the gym, at least not someone who you're going to marry. Is it possible? Sure. Is it likely? No. I'm just speaking from experience. I used to go to the gym a lot back in my day. Unfortunately, most of it's all gone. The last thing that's probably getting you out of the house is going to the grocery store or going to restaurants. But because the way that our culture is in the United States, all of our restaurants are pretty much corporate owned and spread out. And when I say spread out, I'm talking about inside the restaurant. The tables are spread out. You don't usually meet anyone inside of a restaurant. It's not like you're going to strike up a conversation with the person sitting next to you. I mean, maybe you did 40 years ago, but not so much anymore. Now, for those of you who do commute to work, as we've already established, you're not going to meet anyone on your way to work because you're in your car, but you might stop on your way to work to a Starbucks, which again is full of people who have driven there. Actually, I don't have as much to say about Starbucks because I've actually never been to a Starbucks because they kind of put my little coffee shop out of business 10 years ago and I'm still kind of upset about it. And while you're at work, it's also not likely you're going to meet your spouse, as it's kind of risky to date your coworkers because it might mess up your work environment. Which leads me to the last way that most Americans meet people: bars and clubs. Which, if you think about it, do you really think you're going to meet your future spouse when either you or them are partially or fully intoxicated? I'll let you answer that question. So now that we just established all the reasons why you don't usually meet people in person, this is what drives a lot of Americans to go online for dating. Now, online dating is basically a whole video in and of itself, so instead of talking about it in this video, just watch my video about dating to know my thoughts and tips on what to keep in mind while you're dating online. So there you have it. Cars create a barrier for people to meet other people. However, at this point in the video, you're probably thinking, do you have any solutions? I do. Or at least I have some suggestions. If you're living in the United States and you want to meet people, my suggestion is you have to find a way to meet people in person. Usually that's through common interests. Here's a couple of examples. I'm talking about festivals, I'm talking about conventions, any way that you can find people that have a mutual interest. It's more likely you guys are going to strike up a conversation. Dance lessons is another way to meet people. It doesn't matter if you're good at dancing or bad at dancing. It's just very likely that you're going to meet everyone else who's taking lessons, as they're all learning just like you. You could also join a society. You could join a yoga society, a yo-yoing society, the Society of Explorers, or you could join a book club. The point is, you just have to find a way to meet people through mutual interest. That's usually the main way that Americans get together in person and you actually get a chance to talk to someone that you might not have met otherwise. So now that covers everyone who lives in the United States. Now for those of you who live outside of the United States. If you're living outside the United States and you're not married, it's because you've chosen to be so.